Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Colloid for YouTube, back with another Dark Shadows video for you guys and gals. Uh, I'm doing one tonight with Patrick McRae and Gordon Domowski, episode 1102, which is 1102. But I wanted to give an 1841 retrospective. I just covered this with Patrick, my buddy Patrick McRae. When I sit back and take an overall look of the arc that we had covered together, it's really interesting what goes on. I mean, the writers look, the writers of Dark Shadows, when you look at what they really did, they wrote very adult television. I mean, they're writing for a very, very mature audience. They're not trying to they're not writing for kids, that's for sure. And so to write this, a love triangle, and no, this isn't the first love triangle in Dark Shadows history, but it is a love triangle that doesn't involve witchcraft, it doesn't involve magic, it doesn't involve any hocus pocus, not stuff that's gone on in the series. So here's 1841 parallel time. Your characters are Morgan Collins, played by Keith Prentice, Bramwell Collins, played by Jonathan Frid, Catherine Heritage Collins, played by Laura Parker, uh, Daphne Heritage Collins. Both sisters get married to a Collins. um, give a second. Played by Kate Jackson. Um, Julia Collins, played by Grayson Hall. This is the first time Julia, sorry, this is the first time Grayson Hall has got to play a Collins, which is interesting. They wait till the end of the series for her to play a Collins. Wow. I mean, is this my favorite character of hers? No, that mine would be Magda. Obviously, I mean, what a great character that was. But this is an interesting character simply because here's a character who sometimes, and the writers did a really, Sam Hall and Gordon Russell did a really good job with this. Henry Kaplan directed a lot of the episodes. I think he might, and I really like what Grayson Hall does. She plays this character at times a bit heelish, and there is a specific episode where she's pretty much a heel. Um, she's being very very heelish. I mean, if she's a heel in one episode, one specific episode, but in other episodes, she's not a heel, but she comes across that she might be a heel. She's plays the character very in between, and I love her for it because it's really a smart decision to not guess which side the character is really on. And I love that by Grayson. Don't get me wrong, the writers did, wrote the script, but Grayson delivered it um, as Julia Collins. Now, David Selby plays Quentin Collins, and you might say, "Well, he's been playing Quentin Collins?" Not so fast. There's 1970 parallel time. Quentin Collins isn't 1897's parallel or 1897 Quentin Collins. Well, 1841 parallel time Quentin Collins may be the best Quentin adaptation uh, David ever did. In my opinion, it is. I think it sucks that David Selby's appendix acted up and he had to he had to be written off for surgery. But other than that, what a performance he gives! I mean, my God, it's not shocking his performance. What's shocking is you never really get to see you get to see enough of the potential of the character that you really, really love this character. You can tell that this character is made to be your protagonist, that he is made to be the hero of this arc. At least everything points to that. Um, and they go in the opposite direct. I'm not taking anything away from Bramwell. I'll get into Bramwell, but you could when you're watching this arc, it's clear to you as a viewer who's your protagonist. It's Quentin, and you might say, what about Morgan? Is he your heel? Yeah, he is, and you can tell that he's going to be your heel, but he's not. He's not your main heel yet. I think that's the key thing to look at when you look at 1841 Parallel Time. Morgan Collins is what I like to call he's a heel to a point. He's a heel toward Bramwell and no one else. And really, all that is really is what they like to call rivalry. And really, character rivalry is real, though it's nothing new in Dark Shadows, it presents itself new as here because it specifically pits it pits Morgan squarely against Bramwell. But what you also find out that the entire family has not treated Bramwell Collins very well. In fact, they've treated him very poorly. And Bramwell Collins does not have he has no love lost. He doesn't really care what happens to the Collins family members at the Great House. Despite there being an episode where he says he cares about him, Quentin goes, "You really mean that, don't you?" He goes, "Of course, yeah, he really does." Bramwell. So is Bramwell your protagonist? No, I've just answered this. He's not, and really, I don't think he's ever meant to be. I think he's more meant to devise this love triangle between him, Morgan, and Catherine, and he does a really good job. Jonathan Frid plays a great character in Bramwell Collins, and he delivers here. This is not Barnabas Collins by no stretch of the imagination. There's no vampire, there's no fans, there's no supernatural powers. He plays a character who is in love with Laura Parker's character, Catherine Heritage. And they have now you don't see this obviously because it's the 60s, but they have a sex scene. Now you don't see it. I stress this. Back in the heyday when a sex scene would happen in the 40s, 50s, and 60s on television, what you would usually see is with the man, you would see him like buttoning up his shirt, whether it be one button. You'd see the woman fixing her blouse or her dress or whatever. That's what you would usually see, or the guy would be fixing his tie. You would see something to that effect that would hint that the man and woman had sex on television, that the two characters had sex on television. That would be your telltale sign. So there's an episode that happens here when Bramwell takes Catherine and pulls her away. Like he kidnaps her pretty much, and they make love. They have sex. They make love. Bramwell goes, "Are you mad at me?" Catherine's like, "No, no, I'm not mad at you for taking me away forcibly and us having sex before I get married. I'm not mad." It's funny. Um, I think it builds a really interesting plot synopsis of what's going to happen. And keep in mind too, Catherine's pregnancy is planned. Catherine's pregnancy isn't something that is a spur of the moment thing because, Quentin Collins, David Selby's character Quentin leaves. No, her spells come on well before that. So that's something that some might mistake. But trust me, Catherine's pregnancy is a planned thing in this story. It's a part of it. Um, the woman in white is just Josette. They never really they never address that she's the woman in white, though she is, um, which I think is hilarious. At least I never hear them address this when I was watching the episodes. They say woman in white. The woman in white is Josette. Um, uh, Josette wore white. And no, Josette is not a ghost in this story. Actress Mary Cooper plays the elder Josette Dupre Collins, who actually did marry Barnabas Collins in this timeline, in the timeline I'm discussing, in in this arc. Now Barnabas is long dead. His son lived. His son Bramwell lives. Him and Josette's son live. Mary Cooper. When I look at Catherine Lee Scott's portrayal of Josette, and I look at Mary Cooper's, I see two different actresses playing a role that complemented each actress. Like Catherine Lee Scott, Catherine Lee Scott's Josette complements Mary Cooper's Josette. Mary Cooper's Josette complements Catherine Lee Scott's. They're both done correctly and right. Neither is the same exact character, and neither is necessarily a clone of each other. But each character make the character their own. Or sorry, each actress make the character their own by the contrast of the different stories. Where, keep in mind, we meet Josette as a ghost, which that was Catherine Lee Scott coming out of the portrait. So Catherine Lee Scott's character of Josette is a ghost. We meet Josette as a ghost. Then we meet her as a person in 1795. This is Catherine Lee Scott's Josette. We never get to see Josette as an elder woman because she dies. She jumps off Widow's Hill because of the spell Angelique put her under. Now, Angelique did there, obviously Angelique wasn't really an issue with this timeline with 1841. Here's Josette. She got to marry Barnabas. They got to have a kid. They got to have a happily ever after. Also, there's a bit of backstory here because when Barnabas died and Josette was, feeling sad and lonely, Justin Collins, who is the father of Morgan Quentin Gabriel, and Flora is his wife, is also the father of Melanie, who they say is adopted in this story, when in truth, Melanie is the daughter of Justin Collins and Josette Dupre Collins, which is a holy shit plot twist, which I love. It's written in there, but it's a cool plot. I know it's not really, because it's written in the story, but the way this gets played out in 1841, the way they're sort of building this, you'd swear to God Julia Collins was going to be her mother. But no, I love that they make it Josette. I think it's all too fitting, and it gives the character a really great send off between Josette and Melanie, because Josette herself is now a mother of two kids. And, you know, she didn't mean to hurt anybody. This wasn't a thing that, this was a moment of pure passion between two people. And that's something you can sort of tell with Josette's story of it. And you appreciate it for it. It's really a cool story. And to get another thing I love about Mary Cooper, and again, I want to stress this, this is my opinion. To me, she sounds a bit like Catherine Lee Scott a bit. Her act, the way she talks at times, it almost sounds like Catherine Lee Scott. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but um, really good job. I love seeing Mary Cooper as an elder Josette. Really great casting decision. Really great selection. Um, Obviously there's Elizabeth Collins, or no, yeah, Elizabeth Collins. So there's Flora Collins, played by Jim Bennett. Obviously, this Flora Collins is not so much easygoing or kooky. She doesn't, she's not somebody who likes who really is into the supernatural, but she's somebody who has to believe in it because she knows about the cursed room. Again, I explained who the father was. Justin Collins' wife is Flora. Flora Collins is the mother of Morgan Quentin Gabriel. So, and Gabriel in this parallel time, he's not in a wheelchair, he can walk. But he is an alcoholic, and that makes him fun. He hides liquor everywhere, which makes him even more fun. I love Flora's line to her son, "Do you have a flask?" I love that line. Um, Also, in this arc, you do get Gabriel Collins, who's played by Christopher Pennock, and I really enjoy Christopher Pennock's work in this arc. It's a to see Christopher all the different characters Christopher Pennock played. I really enjoy this Gabriel because he's so much fun, and at the same time, you get that he's a coward, but in the same sense, just because he's a coward, it doesn't mean he's necessarily wrong for being that way. The room is a scary thing. And really, a lot of the truth, the hints to the truth, are through Gabriel, but as much as anyone else. Before we get to um, James Forsythe, really, you learn some things through Gabriel, and I think that's one of the most important things about Christopher Pennock's character in this arc. You learn things through his character. Do not sleep on Gabriel in 1841 parallel time. Um, so Lewis Edmonds. Oh, that's right. Kate Jackson's. I didn't touch upon Kate Jackson's character too much, so I'll get to Kate Jackson's character first. So Kate Jackson's character is Daphne Heritage Collins. She marries Bramwell Collins because Bramwell's just doing this to to really get at Catherine because Catherine is already married. Morgan at this point. By the way, the reason really this marriage comes about is because there was a duel between Morgan and Bramwell, and Bramwell loses the duel simply because Catherine told him if he killed Morgan in a duel, she would destroy herself. Uh, Morgan never finds this out. That's one of the most interesting things about 1841 that Morgan himself never finds out that Catherine told Bramwell that. And I think if he had, I don't think our buddy Morgan's gonna go crazy. But I'll get into that here in a minute. Because again, there's things that he doesn't know. Also, too, you get obviously not last but not least. Well, not last but not least, but you get uh, Lewis Edmonds as Brutus Collins, the ghost of Brutus Collins, I should say. The portrait, I think the portrait they bought, and I think my other buddy Gordon brought this up. He thinks they just bought a random portrait. I do too. I don't think the portrait's meant to look like Jonathan Fred, but it sort of does. The portrait they have of Brutus sort of looks like Jonathan, even though Lewis Edmonds is clearly playing a part, which I just love. Lewis Edmonds as Brutus is really a fun character, really a fun, brutal, evil character. Um, you understand why, to me, do you walk away understanding why he did the things he did? Absolutely. I'm not saying the things he did were right, but you walk away with understanding why he did them. Um, you know, you have your sons who are against you, you have the town who doesn't really somewhat like you, and your sons don't really like you, and they're willing to turn on you. The only person loyal to you is your sister because she believes you're she sees the good in you. What she doesn't realize is that Constance Collins, who's played by Grayson Hall, Brutus's sister. She she's so blind loyal to her brother, she does not see him for the evil man he really is. And it's all too fitting that it's her final betrayal that really sets the curse in motion. The murder, and really to get to the next two set of characters, James Forsythe and um, Amanda Collins, who are lovers in the past. Their deaths do not cause the curse in the room. Now, their deaths are a part of the curse where he doesn't let them rest. He doesn't let James Forsythe or his wife Amanda Collins rest. But really, what causes the curse in itself are a lot of things. James Forsythe finds out that he's being cheated by Brutus. He's also sleeping with Brutus's wife. Brutus finds this out by Constance. Also, we find out that James Forsythe has a sister named Sarah Collins. Now we never see Sarah Collins who played Sarah Collins. I think the reason this is because Sarah Collins dies after James Forsythe. Or sorry, Sarah Forsythe dies after James Forsythe. I said Sarah Collins. I apologize. Sarah Forsythe dies after her brother, in my opinion. Um, so he discovers her body in the cottage, which is really interesting. Also, also James Forsythe. You might say, why does James Forsythe suddenly know where his sister's body's buried if he if she died after? Two reasons: because he would have been a ghost, he would have known where, and he also knows that Brutus and Constance spied on him and uh, Amanda or Amber, and when they were kissing in the cottage. And so that's why Sarah's body is left in the cottage, really, ultimately too. It's their twisting place. You can insert whatever word you like. uh, but who am I missing? Really, James Storm's Gerard Stiles is an interesting character, but he's not in a lot of episodes. He's in like two or three, and that's it. He's not in a whole bunch of them. I do. He is good. Don't get me wrong. James Forsythe in anything is, or sorry, James Storm in anything is awesome. Um, he's a psychic, but what the writers do here is smart. They teach him. He is mentioned a lot through this arc though too. Is that he teaches Carrie Stokes special ability that unlock her special potential. And in many ways, I'm glad the writers did this because finally we get Kathy Cody at her best as this version of Carrie Stokes. I wish, if I could go back and fix one thing about Dark Shadows, it would be to introduce Kathy Cody this way instead of the way they did introduce her character as the other as the other Stokes. Um, as the other character. But I really, really like this version of Carrie Stokes in 1841 Parallel Time. She's a psych medium who can see things, and they use her character very well. And she just steals a lot of the episodes she is in. She just does. Thayer David is obviously here as Ben Stokes, as her father. He's not in a ton of episodes either, but the episodes he's in matter. I mean, he confronts the Collins very much. Yes, he's loyal to them, but he's not the lovable Ben Stokes. He's the rough around the edges Ben Stokes, where it's like, hey, don't mess with my family. Yes, my family was loyal to yours, but don't mess with mine. And he tells his daughter, just don't interfere with them. Which brings an interesting dynamic. I'm trying to think if there's anybody I missed. It's a cat. I got Kathy Cody. I got Daphne Harridge. I think I got everybody. Um, pretty sure. what a My overall take of 1841 Parallel Time. It's one of the best underappreciated arcs of Dark Shadows. Now you could say that about the Leviathan arc as well. But I really think people need to give 1841 Parallel Time more of a shot. I really do. This is something I covered by episode with my buddy Patrick McRae, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was, look, to me, Dark Shadows was the best written soap opera. Period. But the way it wasn't just written with this art, the way it was performed was golden. The actors all sold. Everybody busted their ass. And yeah, you could say that about any arc with Dark Shadows. But 1841, the series is ending. It brings a lot of things home, and it shows you the potential of a lot of other characters. Now, I'm going to get back into James Forsythe because I want to bring up Keith Prentice. If Dark Shadows had continued, Keith Prentice is damn sure your future. Um, I mean, look, God, what a talented actor he was. And really, if you want proof of that, go. Don't just watch him as Morgan Collins. Watch when he's possessed as James Forsythe. And man, does he just win you over as super sympathetic. He does as Morgan Collins too a bit when he's helping Quentin trying to uncover the locked room mystery because they don't know who set the curse on the family initially. It's not revealed till later. Like I said, again, Gabriel has a lot to do with this, where he's sort of letting you know it wasn't James Forsythe because that's who they assumed it was eventually. They assumed it was James Forsythe, and lo and behold, the person who really put the curse on the Collins family was one of their own, Brutus Collins. And really, Keith Prentice as not just Morgan Collins, but James Forsythe is just pure gold. It really is, and you can seriously watch the actor transform into the character in front of your eyes, and that really takes talent. I mean, Keith had a world of it, and you can tell that. I'm not taking anything away from anyone else. I'm praising Keith because what a talent he was, and a lot of everybody else on that show was too. I mean, God, David Selby was definitely your star. Um, I don't think he would have been staying, in Dark Shadows. David was Hollywood bound for sure, and rightfully so. Though I have a nitpick to pick with Hollywood for not really. I've always felt Hollywood never used David Selby right. I mean that's just me. Um, but really a cool arc if you guys want to check out 1841 Parallel Time. I hope that you do. It's really fun to watch. I watched it by episode. You can too. It's free on Tubi. Go give it a check out. I really enjoyed covering the episodes individually with my buddy Patrick McCrae. First of all, I do want to give a huge shout out to Patrick for covering the episodes with me. It was a lot of fun. Huge shout out to him. And I just want to thank you guys for tuning in. This is just fun to talk about for me. So you guys have a good day and take care. Bye.